Hello everybody, it's Dev the Modernist Colourist. Today I'm going to answer some question and answers who have entered the giveaway and then obviously announce the winner at the end. I'm going to go through them. There are a lot of people that's answered have asked the same question. So I've allocated each person a question number. And then we're going to do the generator at the end. Okay, so we'll kick off. Obviously I'm not colouring or showing anything at this time. There is another haul due, and how ironic would it be that they actually come and deliver while we're doing this, because I'm still waiting for them. It did say it would be delivered yesterday, hence me saying there would be a second part of the haul today, but it would be really good if they turned up during this video, because you would get an instant first impression, as I would have been doing once I opened them. Anyway, the numerical order of the questions that came through, just a reminder as well, these are the giveaway items. They are a pack of 8 Crayola Pro brush tips, and also a pack of 12 Sharpies. And if you just hang on there one moment, just give me a second. I am going to add a book to that, so that if anybody is a proper starter, new starter, they're going to get the Steve Squidoodle Turner book, which is the top 50 colouring pages, and there are numerous designs in this. There is steampunk, there are sceneries, underwater, buildings, animals, there is castles, balloons. There is a lot here, butterflies, and that's a particular good one, tree house. I was thinking about it last night, and obviously with it being my first giveaway and I've just gone over 600 subscribers, so I can't thank you enough really. The response and the questions, I had over 90 questions, 99 questions I think it was. So the response to this channel has been amazing, and I can't thank you all enough. So like I said, I was thinking last night that if these 2 items went out to a brand new starter that's joined my channel, then there wouldn't be a book with it. So I wanted to add a book to it so that they can immediately start colouring. And like I said, this is the best of Squidoodle's colouring pages from 2015 to 2017. It's never been used, and like I said, it's a good book for somebody to start using the mediums that I'm going to give away. So that's all one package there. Right, so hopefully the Amazon delivery will come. Like I say, it would make a better video if that came whilst we were filming this. So without further ado, I'm just going to kick on with the questions. Like I said before, there was no specific numerical order that that YouTube keep the replies in, so I've had to go through it one by one and write the questions down. There are quite a few questions that have been repeated by several subscribers, so I'll read their names out, but obviously only asked myself the question once. So moving straight on then, the first question I've got on my list is from Charlotte Jorstad, or Jorstad. I think that's a Scandinavian name. She asks, what is my favourite time of year and why? Well, that's going to be the summertime. I do like the summertime. I get a 2-week break in the summer from work. And why? Obviously that is my opportunity to go on holiday if I can do. So that's the answer to that one. N. Cortez, who I believe is from New York City, asks, how long have I been colouring? Okay, well I've been colouring about 4 years at the moment, and counting. Brenda Snyder asks, how do I find my books online? She says that I get quite a lot of unusual ones, which I like to think I do. But I find them by being a proper geek, really. I use the search facility on Amazon in various different ways to try and isolate certain types of books, and I'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and that's basically it, really. There's no special way of doing it other than just putting different keywords in and looking for reviews. I also search by hardcover. I also search by various other things to try and narrow down certain types of books. So that's the answer for Brenda. Casey Lynn Keller asks, what struck my interest in colouring? Right. Now, if truth be known, I was inclined to go into the colouring kind of things. I had a really, really bad time in my life where I lost both parents within the space of a few months, and I also lost my mother on my birthday, and then I also lost my best friend, who again, I have to be honest, who's currently doing life imprisonment for murder. And he was my cousin as well, and it was such a shock to everybody and everything that he could do such a thing. So, long story short, I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I needed something to get my teeth into, really. I'm trying to be as honest as I can for obvious reasons, because I don't want to answer any questions that are, I don't want to answer them disingenuously. But that's the main reason. So there was a time in my life where things were really, really bad, and I kind of pulled myself out of it through colouring. So without going into lengths and breadths of how, why, and wherefores of that's the main reason. Okay, so that's the answer to Casey Lynn Keller's question. And now my friend Robin Loves Reading asks, how many hours a day do I colour? Well, Robin, that varies, dependent on work, obviously, but I try and do at least an hour a day. If I get a weekend off or a day off through the week, then obviously I'll do a bit more. But it's a case of as and when, and as much time as I can squeeze in. 78 Shiny Star asks, my favourite pencils, markers and paints, and why? Well, the pencils, my favourite are polychromos, without a shadow of a doubt. I haven't used every single pencil, so I can't tell you that they are the best, but certainly out of the ones that I've got and the ones that I use, they are by far the best that I've got. My favourite markers have to be these Pro Marker ones that I have. The Home Cube ones are my favourite marker set, but these individually are absolutely fantastic. So I would have to say the Winsor & Newton Pro Marker. And my paints would have to be, I don't have a lot of paints, but I would have to give that to Arteza watercolour paints. I think they're very good value. Their vibrancy are excellent, and like I say, you get a lot for your money. So I'd have to go with the polychromos, the Winsor & Newton Pro Markers, and the paints would be the Arteza. And then Loretta Anderson asks, what's my favourite book at the moment, here and now, and what drew me to it? Well, ironically, my favourite book at the moment is this one, which is, I'll just flip the cover for you, which is Whimsical Wonders colouring book, the artist edition by Julia Spiri. What drew me to it was my lack of ability to do, or thought I had a lack of ability to do watercolour. Skin tones. So I bought this book predominantly because it's all portrait, and I could practice obviously getting the skin tones right and varying skin tones from light to dark. So that's the answer to that one, really. Joey Galvin, excellent question this. If I could give an award for best question, this chap would win it. If you could live in any time, in any place, what and where would it be? Well, I would have to say it would be in the 50s, and it would be around the early to mid 50s when rock and roll kicked off. I think Memphis, Tennessee, or anywhere where the whole thing started what you can only describe as mania throughout the world. I would have loved to have been part of that in my teens. I think it would have been something special to go and see Elvis and the Beatles, of course, who were my favourite band. But a lot of what the Beatles did, even though they wrote their own songs eventually, a lot of what the Beatles did had already been done. So rather than pick Liverpool in the 60s, I would have definitely picked the USA in the 50s as the rock and roll boom kicked off. That's a great question. And then Kiwi Mum ×3 asks, why do I think that colouring, or do I think that colouring is getting popular for men? And what's made it this way? I don't think it actually is that popular for men. For instance, in this colouring community that we have, which is such a nice close-knit community, I think that there's a couple of people who comment. N Cortez is one, Joey Galvin, who asked the question. There's a few that come on the live streams, but actually channels, I think there's only myself and John who have a colouring channel. So I would like to see it get more widespread. It's a fantastic hobby, as you all know, and it does serve many purposes for me. The collecting side of it, obviously the colouring side of it, and the relaxation side of it. So it would be nice to see a lot of people join in, of the males, but like I say, I can't really think that it is getting that popular for men. The next question is from Star Sparkle, and they ask, how long has it took to build my book collection? Now, I would say it's taken about 5 years, all in told. When I first started, I started collecting the sets more than anything. So I was kind of getting the, like Romantic Countries and that kind of thing, and the Kirby Rosannas. And then eventually, obviously, as you start and get into the channeling and start watching YouTube, your head gets turned by many a book. But all told, since the beginning, I would say it's about 5 years that it's taken me to build this collection up. Okay, Debbie N for November, asks, how do I decide what colour book to choose next? Now, this is a great question. It's very difficult when you've got quite a few books, but what I tend to do is either join a colour along that's currently on YouTube, or as Halloween's coming up, obviously that dictates what everyone's kind of colouring in, and so on with Christmas, Easter, that kind of thing. The seasons that you're currently in, they kind of determine sometimes what colouring book to choose. But if none of them apply, I think the choice will be made on what I would like to use as a medium. So for instance, if I fancied doing some pencil, I would choose a certain type of book for that. And if I decided that I wanted to use some markers and just throw down a load of colour, I'd probably pick a different book. So throughout the year, I think all those points add up to different answers really. So yeah, depending on the time of year, depending on the feeling of mediums, and of course depending on the current trend in YouTube and what they're colouring in the colour alongs. The next question has been asked a couple of times by Planet Crystal for one, and Red Tifa for another one. They asked me to name, excuse me while I get a drink, I am suffering with a major cold at the moment and my voice is very, very broken, just bear with me. That's better. Yorkshire tea, that, Yorkshire tea. They both asked what my top 10 books are and referred it to Zoe Archer's tag that was out before I started my channel. So I've done a top 10 and I won't go into great detail with it because I've got lots of questions to answer, but number 10 will be Mythomorphia, Kirby Rosanna's. Number 9 would be Ivy in the Inky Butterfly by Joanna Basford. Number 8 would be Fantasia, Nick Filbert, followed by Irene in number 7, Nick Filbert. The mythographic new book, that's coming at 6. I've put the Romantic Country Set at number 5. Botanicum by Maria Troll at number 4. The Avenue Mandarin Coloriage Wild at number 3. This book that I'm currently working in, Whimsical Wonders by Julia Spiri, at number 2. And at number 1 would be Serene by Nick Filbert. So those are my top 10s for Planet Crystal and Red Tifa. Moving on, Kathy McManus asks, what watercolour would I recommend as she's new to watercolour? Well, she didn't specify what type of medium with watercolour. So if it was paint, I wouldn't think twice about recommending the Arteza set. The cakes on the Arteza set are a good 1.5 inches across. There's many colours and they are excellent value for money. When you're first starting out, I think that there isn't a better set. And as for the pencils, well, she did say she's wanting to invest. Now, I do like the Albert Durer's watercolour pencils, but I think that if it was for someone that was investing as a new trait, I would have to go with the Inktense, purely because they act like a watercolour, so you're getting the experience, but they're actually an ink, so your work would be extremely vivid and keep worthy. So I would recommend those two if you're first starting out. Barb Happy Place Farah, she asked a question about my tattoos. She says, did I design my own? Not all of them I didn't, but some of them I did. This one, this John Lennon one with the guitar, I don't know if you can see that. While my guitar gently weeps here with the eye, there is a tear here falling down for while my guitar gently weeps. So I designed that, and then I also designed the Abbey Road Beatles walking across the road, but instead of the zebra crossing, I've done it on piano keys. So I did design those two. And on my other arm, I don't know if you can quite see on there, I've got Yoda, and I'll have to lean forward a little bit. And the Death Star and Darth Vader, and that was all designed by myself with a film strip that runs all the way through it. So yeah, the answer to Barb's Happy Place question is yes, I did design some of them, but not all of them. Jen Bickerstaff asks, what are my favourite mediums to colour and how long have I been colouring? I've already kind of answered this. My favourite mediums are polychromos, and I've been colouring about 4 to 5 years. Natalie Hawker asks, where in the UK exactly do you live and how long have you lived there? Well, I live in a place called Huddersfield, which is a town in West Yorkshire, England, and I've lived here all my life, apart from a spell when I was 13 to 15. I lived in Cleveley's Blackpool for 2 years, as my parents had bought a guest house over there. But predominantly all my life I've lived here in Huddersfield. Excuse me. Diana Schumann, she asks, the Bennett Klein books I've got, what's the paper quality like? Now, if I'm being honest, the paper quality is not the best. The designs are absolutely mind-blowing. He is a phenomenal artist. But it's funny you should say that, because, or ask that question, so to say, because there's many a time I've thought to myself that how much better the Bennett Klein books would be if there were more quality in the paper, more quality in the cover, and that kind of thing. I don't think people would mind paying a few pounds more for the books if they were, you know, in better quality backing and paper. So that's my answer for Diana Schumann. Christine asks, what was my hobby before colouring? Well, my hobby has always been collecting music. I have slowed down on it a lot in recent times, but upstairs I have three actually, but two 1 terabyte hard drives full of music. So I have 2 terabytes full of music. They're kind of the older stuff. I must have about 500 CDs, and I've probably got in excess of 1,000 albums on vinyl. So that's a lifetime, by the way. That's a lifetime's collection of music. So that's definitely my hobby before, and still is, but to a lower extent. And Lisa GG, or GS, sorry, asks, how do I support the channel? Well, I support the channel by my wages at the moment, and that's probably the way that it's going to always be. I have added, it's a little link in the description that sort of says, do you want to buy me a coffee to help support the channel? I mean, I probably spend in excess of $400 or $500 a month on supplies and collector's stuff, but that's by my choice. That's not because it's a necessity to run the channel. So in answer to the question, I don't really have any other stream of support other than the little coffee thing that I've got on my descriptions. And then Lisa's Colouring Corner asks, how many books do I have? And also that question was asked by Beth Thomas also. I think it's about 800 plus at last count, and the only reason I know that is because I moved, should I say, recently. So yeah, it's anywhere between sort of 820 and 860, that kind of figure. And no, I'm not going to colour in them all, I know that. But the collection side of it is my hobby as well as the colouring side of it. So I even enjoy looking at colouring books as art material. So, you know, I don't just get them thinking that I want every colouring book. I'm quite specific in the ones I do buy, as you've seen by my flip-throughs. So yeah, I like looking at them as well as colouring in them. So I don't think it'll slow down. Sorry, I think it will slow down a little bit, but I don't think it'll ever end, in so much that there's always the odd one or two that's coming out that takes your fancy. And we all say that it's going to slow down, don't we? And then you end up buying 3 or 4 or sticking more in your cart, and before you know it, you've got another 10. But I don't go out and I don't go drinking, that kind of thing. So I'm not doing anybody any harm, I don't think. Okay, Michelle Chetty, Chetty, she asks, have I come across a woodland book? The answer would be yes. I've come across quite a few in my time of collecting, and probably the best one is the Painterly Days one. That's a really good quality book. It has woodland animals in it. The paper quality is excellent, and it's designed for watercolour, but you can use marker on it. So the answer to that is yes, and that's the one I would recommend. Deborah Arnold asks, what are my top 5 rock bands or bands of all time? Well, number 1's the Beatles. Number 2 would be Kasabian. Number 3 would be Led Zeppelin. Number 4 would be Oasis. And number 5 would have to be between The Who and the Stone Roses. So that's Deborah Arnold's question. Dee Dee and Kay Stewart both ask, working 50 hours plus a week, how am I finding time? Well, the answer to that is I don't. I'll get the odd hour here and there, and that's about it at the moment. But then what it does do is it allows me to enjoy my time off when I have it. You know, like this weekend, for instance, I've got all day off today. It allows me to prepare stuff like this. It allows me 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours colouring, and then to do the other stuff, bits and bats in the house that you like to do. So I guess the fact that I'm not able to colour for long periods during the working week makes it a little bit more interesting when I do get that time. Candy Colourful World, sorry. How did I get into colouring? And that was also asked by Marilla Sharp and Kylara 49. Well, I've answered that. I don't really want to go down that road again, but that's the answer to that. Kelly or Helly Mickerson asks, do I make art myself? No, not really. I have got a couple of books on how to draw, and I have gone through the basic stages of those, but as far as actually producing art, I think the nearest I've come to it is when I do CDs off my hard drives from upstairs. I'll tend to do a cover, you know, draw a cover or get it printed out and colour it in, one of those kind of things to make it unique, you know. But that's pretty much all I do as far as producing my own art. Christina Watson asks, what grayscale book would I recommend for a beginner? Well, recently Jade Summer has brought out the Chibi Girls grayscale book, and I wouldn't hesitate to recommend that one. It's precisely done. There's no discoloured parts to it. There's no parts where you have to use your own initiative and try and, you know, produce an area that's not quite designed properly on the page. It's very much solid lined, and it shows you the variance on shades. It goes from dark to light, so obviously if it's on the same item, let's say, I don't know, a pair of trousers or a pair of jeans or something like that, and there are four different shades of that colour, then you would pick 4 different shades of blue if you were doing them in blue, you know, and the lightest would be the lightest, the darkest would be the darkest, and then blend them in as a transitional thing. And I would recommend that for any grayscale beginner. I think it's a brilliant book, and like many others have said as well, that we are hoping that Jade Summer bring out more grayscale colouring books. Amanda Williams asks, my preferred pencils and fine liners. Well, I've answered the pencil question. That's the Polychromos. The fine liners, I used to use the Staedtler, the Tri Plus. But then I used the Arteza fine liners, and I thought they were slightly better, and they're a lot better packaged, they're a lot better value for money, and the colour variation's better. So if I were to pick a favourite fine liner, it would be the Arteza ones. Let's have a look. Shara, she asks, am I an artist by nature? The answer would be no. I'm probably just still a learner, but getting into the kind of art world, I just love doing it. So I guess it doesn't really, I wouldn't call myself an artist by any stretch of the imagination. I wouldn't call myself anything other than somebody who has a hobby, really, and enjoys it thoroughly. Tammy Sifford and September Girl 70 both asked my favourite TV show and my favourite movie of all time. Now, my favourite movie of all time is Return of the Jedi. It reminds me of my childhood and is as good today as it was when it came out in 1983. My favourite TV show is a toss-up between Friends and Family Guy. But if I had to pick one, it would be Family Guy. Melissa Halpin asks, have I ever been to a Disney resort? The answer is yes. I've been to Disneyland Paris. I'm not going to go into the who's, whys and wherefores of how that came about, but yes, I've been to Disneyland Paris. Sketch Cantation and Miss Susie 9mm, that's a class name, Miss Susie 9mm. They both ask, if I had to go on holiday with just one book and one pack of pencils, what would it be? It would be Serene and some polychromos. May Brox asks, what made you want to marry me? Well, May, it was a culmination of various things. Your delightful personality, your original sense of humour, and most of all, your kind friendship. I know we have this kind of joke online, but in all seriousness, you're a great person, a great colourist, and it's people like you that make it enjoyable for people like me. So I can't thank you enough, mate. Rose Dosha, I'm sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, it could be Dosha, it's spelled D-O-S-C-H-E-R. So Rose Dosha asks, what travel items do I take with me and what do I put them in? Right, that's a good question. I have one of those, do you know, like the kids that the juniors take to school, which are the plastic Velcro fastening school bags? I've got one similar to that. It's an Icon, and that fits about 3 books in and a pack of pencils, no problem. So that's what I use, and that's what I take, really. I take 2 or 3 books. When I went to Turkey last year, I think I took 2 books, and I think I picked it down on the polychromos to about 30 pencils. Just bung them in a pencil case, a small one, and took them with me. So I've done all that. We're nearly at the end now. Sorry, guys. I have to answer every question because people have took the time to ask me them. Desiree, Mike Kelly, Irian 1965, and Mary Rapp all ask what my favourite medium is. Now, I have answered that several times with the polychromos, but if it wasn't a pencil, my favourite medium would be a marker. and it would be either the Home Cube or the Winsor & Newton Pro markers. Elisa Tucker asks, what is my strangest colouring book? Well, that's easy. That's that longest colouring book in the world one. It opens to 17 foot. It's in a concertina style book, and it's 17 foot, which is best part length of this room, I think. Very strange that somebody decided to do that, but also very clever, because you don't have to open it out in one to start colouring. It's all openable in sections. So that would be the answer to that, Elisa. Kathy Monk asks, do I do any other artwork? I would have to just say the CDs again. I do like to put, like, if I do a Prince compilation, for instance, people ask me if I'll do them one, because I've got all his music, and then I'll just do a cover and then colour it in and then shade it and that kind of thing. So that's about my limit, but I enjoy doing it. And so yeah, it's an artwork of sorts, I think. Faye Meek, she asks, how long have I been into colouring? And also asked by Caroline M and some Cali Chick. I have answered that in a roundabout way. It's about 5 years. Kim Richmond asks, what point in life did I decide I was a colourist? Well, that has been answered earlier. I think, you know, I decided to become a colourist when times weren't the best. Let's leave it at that. Kenny Vitratich asks, what is the thumbnail in my YouTube channel? Now, I know which she's on about, because at the moment it's quite obvious what it is. It's me in a just a picture. But the one that Kenny is on about is the one where it only showed half of it, which I didn't realise until about a month after I put it on. And it's me kneeling down with a load of scooters, and I found them at a place local to here in Rochdale, and there were a mass array of 60s scooters and Vespas, Lambrettas, that kind of thing. So I had a picture taken with a couple of those, and obviously that was on my thumbnail at the time. Karen Johnson and Susan Howard and Kim T all ask, what is my job? Well, for 20 years I worked as a police officer, finishing as a detective, and then for the last 4 years, no, it's not even that, for the last two and a bit years, I've been a High Court enforcement officer. So that is very much what you would call in the USA a sheriff, and here in Britain, can't pay, take it away, that kind of thing. And obviously part of that question was what sort of hours, and that is the answer. That's why I do work so many hours. Kerry W asks what my favourite medium colour is, which I thought was a good question. I would have to say olive green or khaki, one of those two. I really love that colour in clothes and that kind of thing. So especially sort of polo t-shirts and you know, short sleeve shirts, that kind of thing. So that would be my favourite colour to, you know, down on paper. I think it looks wicked. Christy Forgaroos asks, now I'm not going to answer that question, Christy, I'm sorry, but your number is still in the draw for the giveaway, not a problem. I'm sorry about that. Nikki B asks, my favourite horror film. Right, I'm not really a big horror film fan, but the one that's most memorable is The Exorcist. I absolutely shat my pants when I watched that film. So that had a long-lasting effect on me. I can't remember how old I was when I watched it, but that certainly made an impression in my brain. So I would have to say the most significant, as opposed to favourite, would be The Exorcist. This is a cool name, by the way. Let me just hide that question. It's spelt Nicola, but it's spelled N-I, colour. Pretty cool. Nicola Creations asks, best advice for anyone starting? Now, I don't think I'm one to really give any advice, other than the one thing I've learned while I've been colouring for 4 years is that you can only develop your own style. But one thing that I will stress as being favourable advice is whatever work you're doing, you cannot rush it. If you get to a book and you're going straight through it, you know, like Split to the Wind, you're not going to get a good result. So I think the best advice I can give anyone starting is take your time. There's no rush to get it done. You know, no one's giving prizes out for 50 to 100 completed colourings a week. If you want a good result, I think that taking your time, plan out your colours, plan out your gradations, plan everything out really. You know, and if you've got a scrap bit of paper next to you, swatch them and find the best colour. You know, don't just look at it and think, oh, I've got that, and then put it straight to your book. I think, you know, like I said, I'm not one for giving advice, but if there's anything I have learned, it is that you have to take your time to create anything good. So that's that, and we're now on the home straight, so I do apologise people, but I didn't expect so many people asking me questions. Denise Dimianwi, or Dimianwish, asks, what are my top 10 80s songs? Well, there's so many, but I've just wrote 10 down that came to my mind that I like, and they are Little Red Corvette by Prince, Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, The Power of Love, Huey Lewis and the News, Jackie Body by Steve Silk Hurley, Happy Hour by the House Martins, Imagine John Lennon, standard, Malcolm McLaren, Buffalo Girls, Duran Duran, Wild Boys, Farley Jack, Master Funk, Love Can't Turn Around, and Prince, When Doves Cry. Now, I wouldn't say that they are my ultimate top 10 because it would take an eternity to go through it, and I don't want to start waffling about music, otherwise we'll be here till tomorrow. But they are certainly memorable songs, and they will be 10 of my memorable songs, so I have answered it, you know, with thought. Vicky Possard, or Poussard, asks, my favourite grayscale book and which pencils would I use in it? Right, now my favourite grayscale book at the moment would have to be, let's have a think. It would have to be the Chibi Girls one that's just come out. And I think the only reason why I say that is because it's on a different level to the rest of them. You know, when grayscale books first started coming out a couple of years ago, I don't know if there's anybody that remembers that or not, but I started getting some a couple of years ago, and the printing quality was dire. It was absolutely shocking. But of course, since Intricate Ink came out, I think that is what sparked a lot of the interest in grayscale, because if you follow it properly, then the result that you get is so true to life, and it, you know, it makes you, you know, it gives you pleasure to look at the piece that you've completed, and it's of good quality because obviously everything's there for you to follow. So I think that pre-times to the intricate ink animals, I think it were bad. But certainly after that, it's been a lot better and is getting better. So I would recommend, like I said earlier, I don't know if you're, a beginner or not, but I would certainly recommend the Jade Summer ones. She's got two, I think, or she, the company. One is Chibi Girls, and I think the other one's a vampire one. So I would get that. Okay. Paulina, and Julie Niova both ask who my favourite book author is for colouring. That would be Nicholas Filbert. I think his work is absolutely outstanding. The book quality is good. Him and Kirby Rosanna's are the best, I think, in my opinion, of course, but I think that Nicholas Fenton or Nicholas Chandra-Wiyanatra is the best at the moment, and he's currently doing another book. I messaged him on Instagram, and he replied very courteously and said, I can't give you any details of the book, but I can tell you that I'm on with it at the moment. And that was about 5 months ago. It was well before I started the channel, so I think a lot of people will be straight into buying that when it comes out. Pam CC, spelled C-E-E, asks my most memorable concert. That would be Oasis 1996 at Nebworth Park. There was 128,000 people there, and I was at the front. There were 5 support acts on before Oasis, which sort of went from 2 PM till 7 PM, so there was 5 hours worth. And then at 9 PM they came out and absolutely blew the sky off. So that's my most memorable concert, Oasis 1996, Nebworth Park. Soria Franchitti asks, what made me start a channel and what made me start colouring? Well, I've answered the start colouring part. And what made me start a channel was, I was watching it every day, and it was getting to the point where some channels frustrated me, some were enjoyable, and then I thought, well, there's room for another one possibly, and I just wanted to have my input, being a man in a predominantly female colouring world, and I think so. The most inspiration I got was from John at the Bibliophile Colourist. He kind of was the first one to dip his toes, really, that I know of anyway. And I started watching him right from his first video, which he has very kindly commented on when mentioning me on his video. I've supported him since his first video. And I think that he sort of, inspired me to sort of think, well, he's in America. He's a lad on that side of the Atlantic. They didn't really want at this side. Now's your time kind of thing. So that's what I did. Cheryl V's, one of the two, asks, have I ever been to the USA? The answer is no. I would love to go, even if it's on my own. I have been asked a couple of times to go with various ex-girlfriends and that kind of thing, but I couldn't have stood 2 weeks with them, let alone fly on a plane with them. So I will go. It's on my bucket list, and that East Coast is kind of me thinking when I do go. I'd like to kind of do New York, all up that coastline. What else is up there? The play Atlantic City, Washington, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd like to do that. I'd like to go and dine in New York City. I've heard it's such an experience, and then of course the shopping side of it as well. spend a few quid in New York would be lovely. So that's that. Angela Radomi asks, do I do tutorials? The answer is no. I'm not confident, I don't think is the right word. I don't think I'm confident enough to do a tutorial, because at the moment a lot of my episodes on the channel have been about, you know, it's worried me a little bit actually, because it's kind of been, look what I've got kind of thing, when that is so far from the truth. I'm not like that as a person at all. But I've tried to sort of create some interest with picking sort of unusual things that are not quite common on YouTube. But I mean, I can colour, as you can see on here. I'm not saying it's good enough to be able to do a tutorial, but so the answer is no, but the answer is not never. If I feel that I've, you know, kind of got to a stage or level that I could offer somebody some good advice, or some you know, some skill set or something like that, then I'd certainly consider it. But as far as tutorials go, I'm not kind of in that bracket yet, I don't think. Teresa Couch asks, what got me interested in my channel? Well, I've answered that. That was John at the Bibliophile Colorist. There's no point sort of going over that again, but thanks for the question anyway, Teresa. That is the answer. If you've not checked him out, he's called the Bibliophile Colorist. He does, at the moment, he does a bit more colouring than I do, purely because of time, I think. But that's going to obviously change. When I've shown all my supplies and gone through all my books, because I've had so many requests for, please can you show us completed pages, please can you do us an in-depth tour of your book collection, this, that and the other. And of course, with the time that I have available, colouring as well is very difficult. So I will get through it all, but I'm kind of just prioritising at the moment. So it was John that got me interested in starting the channel up, for the reasons I've already explained. And then Little Pickle asks, hi Little Pickle, what book do I want that I don't have? That is Irene, by Nicholas Filbert, or Nicholas Chandra-Wiyanatra, is it? I don't have it because I can't get it. I've tried numerous times. I don't do Etsy because the last time I used it, I had my card cloned, and although I got the most of my money back, I've just tended to stay away from it. It's put me off. So I've not been able to find it. I did find one copy on eBay about a year ago. I paid for it and it never came. So I haven't had much luck with Irene as it stands at the moment, but that is the book that I do want that I don't have. Janice McClellan asks, does Eddie Hall follow me? And Eddie Hall, for those of you who don't know, is the world's strongest man, who has obviously told the media that he's a colourist. I don't think he does, Janice. I've not seen his name, and I don't know how to really look through your subscribers. There probably is an easy way, but I just never got around to doing it. But it would be nice if he did. So that's your answer, Janice. Brittany Mason asks, what's my favourite subject to colour? At the moment, it's portraits, because I'm kind of really liking the skin tones and the pencil on top and that kind of thing. But over the sort of course of 5 years, I would say that my favourite subject has been kind of comic book, science fiction type of stuff. Selena asks if I have any pets. At the moment, no, I don't. I'm at work for long hours, as I already mentioned. That's becoming boring. Not your question, me saying that I work long hours. I'm not after a pity party or anything. but that's the reason why I don't have any pets. I used to have a Cocker Spaniel, grey and black, who was mega cute. He was called Dexter. And then I had a cat called Jedi, who has now passed away. So that's all the questions. Thank you for being patient, and thank you for sticking with it. Like I said, I didn't anticipate that many questions coming. I'm now just going to log it into the number generator, and I'm going to announce the winner. So again, thank you to everyone who has entered. Thank you to everybody who has taken the time to ask a question. So I've now got 1 to 99 here. I'm getting as close as I can. So it's 1 to 99 and generate. Number 59. Number 59. Hello there, number 59. Number 59 is Kiwi Mum ×3. Her question was why is it getting popular for men, and what's making it this way? So Kiwi Mum ×3. You have won the Sharpie 12 pack, ultra fine, and also the brush tips, the Pro range that's not available to buy. So you want to use these sparingly because they're quite a collector's item. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there's a book to go with it, which is the top 50 colouring pages by Steve Squidoodle Turner. So if you want to get in touch with me, Kiwi Mum ×3, my email address is, and I'll write it on here so that you can contact me, but I think I have it in my description as well. I'm not 100% sure. But here it is. It's Dev Wilcox, DEVWILCOX, devwilcox@gmail.com. If Kiwi, where are you? Kiwi Mum ×3 wants to get in touch with me, I'll get those sent off to you. Obviously you can supply me your address on email. If I don't hear anything from you by next Sunday, unfortunately I will have to pick the winner, and I will do it live on air again. So thanks for joining me. It's a pity Amazon didn't come rat-tat-tatting on my door, because that would have been brilliant to pause the video for an opening of live stuff, but never mind. Thank you for joining, and thank you for being patient. If you liked the video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing and clicking the bell. That will notify you of all future content. And thanks for joining me, and hopefully if Amazon do come, there will be another haul video later today. Cheerio folks.